How's it going, everybody? JV Wins, Dogon SS, of course. We are here once again for another edition of Conscious Approach on YouTube. Much appreciation to everybody out there who's been checking out the content, following along with us on the channel. As always, a couple of housekeeping duties. Download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify if you are so inclined. We're trying to be available in as many spaces as possible for people who might not necessarily be in position to watch the videos on YouTube or just prefer to consume content audibly. So you can find us in all of those relevant podcast audio spaces. You can also check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Conapproach, CONAPPROACH, as we continue to share some of the content over on the TikTok channel as well to try to grow that part of the community out. Otherwise, glad that everybody has been checking us out, following along with us. And if this is your first time checking out this channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man. Hit that like button, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the commentary in this or any other piece of content as we continue to rock and roll. Now, of course, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Friend of the channel, LeBron James, is once again making news for things that don't have much to do with basketball. For anybody who is unaware, LeBron made a whole lot of black people mad when he was on a golf course recording some sort of a video. I don't know whether this was a podcast. I'm not exactly sure what it was for. Maybe the article that I'm about to pull up will preface what this was for, or rather contextualize it. But LeBron is on a golf course playing golf. He's conducting an interview. He's answering questions. And during this interview, he talked about his hatred for playing in the city of Memphis. He talked about how Memphis sucks. There's two cities in the NBA that he hates playing in. That's Memphis and Milwaukee. He also talked about Memphis needing to move to Nashville because there's more stuff to do in Nashville. Needless to say, LeBron is not a fan of Memphis. Now, he caught some backlash for this because there are racial implications, of course. Memphis being a very black city, a lot of black people were upset. They felt as though the optics of these kind of comments were off-putting. They were sort of making the claim that LeBron is tone deaf to being a black person himself, not thinking about the implications that such comments would carry, given the fact that Memphis is a black city and how it sounds with you suggesting that a major aspect of this city and a major aspect of its economy ought to be moved away so that LeBron can enjoy playing in a city that he prefers other than Memphis. So a lot of people don't like it, and they've been, voicing their frustrations with these comments that LeBron made about the city of Memphis. So we'll go ahead and opine because LeBron actually responded to the criticism, basically saying, y'all are reading too much into it. I didn't say nothing about black people. I just don't like playing in Memphis. So this says LeBron James responds to outrage about Memphis comments. What is your problem with it? LeBron James stood by his comments about disliking Memphis, Tennessee, but denied that his opinion has anything to do with the city's black residents. The Lakers small forward was a guest on the April 2nd episode of YouTube series Bob Does Sports, where he blasted Bluff City as being one of the places he likes the least. LeBron also wants the Memphis Grizzlies team to be permanently moved to Nashville. The professional basketball player also expressed a dislike for Milwaukee. You think I want to do that being in Memphis on a random Thursday? I'm not like the first guy even talking about it in the NBA. You guys have to move. Let's go over to Nashville. You got Vanderbilt over there. You got NASCAR. You got a stadium. Don't they got a hockey team too? LeBron was swiftly criticized on social media for the remarks, with many perceiving it as an attack towards a largely black populated city. The NBA star was also deemed hypocritical after releasing a Nike LeBron 23 sneaker in dedication to Dr. Martin Luther King, which also memorialized Memphis's Lorraine Motel, where he was slain in 1968. LeBron finally addressed the backlash while at practice during a quick chat with ESPN reporter Dave McMenamin. I said Milwaukee as well. Did I say I don't like black people? I'm 41 years old. There's two cities I do not like playing in right now. That's Milwaukee and that's Memphis. So here is a sound from Mr. James, not walking back, but rather doubling down on his comments, saying it doesn't have much to do with black people. I just don't like playing in Memphis.
How people have taken those comments.
What do you mean?
People been upset about the fact that Memphis was looked at as a team that, you know, black people in Memphis, right, compared to like Nashville, for example. So
did I say I don't like black people?
No, I didn't say that. But there were people who were wondering why Memphis was targeted. Like
Milwaukee was too. Did they miss that one too? They didn't see that?
Not as much commentary.
Oh, yeah, okay. I said Milwaukee as well. 41 years old. It's two cities I do not like playing in right now. That's Milwaukee and that's Memphis. What is the problem? I don't like going home either. Shit, and I'm from there. What is people? You are ridiculous. They also get mad at my son being on the team too. So what are we talking about? Okay. People need to figure out other ways to put their energy to other things that's important. Like seriously, I'm not talking about the city, like the people in Memphis. Like, I don't like staying at the Hyatt Central. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Nothing. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? People need to shut the hell out. Thank you.
Yeah, man, what's with the shade towards the Hyatt centric?
Jeez.
LeBron also pointed out the criticism of his oldest child, Bronny, who's under contract with the Lakers, making him and LeBron the league's first father-son duo who played together. So basically the rest of the article just highlights what LeBron said during that media session there during practice. Among those who spoke about LeBron's remarks was Stephen A. Smith, who had tension with the athlete since being confronted by him about Bronny in 2025. So LeBron doesn't have time for any of your discontent with the fact that he voiced his displeasure with having to play in Memphis. So what do you think about the backlash that LeBron dealt with after making those remarks about not liking those two cities in particular? Well, Memphis more specifically.
I mean, it was the optics. It was the context of which he was saying it. His dismissal of the people of. See, he said he's not talking about the people, but when you're talking about the city, it implies the people. So it was the context of which he was doing it. It was his dismissive way of talking about it. And then also highlighting a city like Nashville as a better alternative. And then him also saying, you got Vanderbilt there. Okay. Then, you guys also have, he said something else. And then he says,
NASCAR.
You got NASCAR. Like, who says that? You gonna go to NASCAR events, LeBron? Have you been to NASCAR events before? And then he wants to say, you got a hockey team too, right? Hockey team. See, the only thing he didn't say was hockey club. You guys got a hockey club too, right? So I was like,
he would have said club if it was soccer.
Yeah. So here's my thing, man. It was the context of which he was doing it. Everybody that's in the black community is highly familiar of the term code switching. And he just looked very code switchy right there. It didn't seem like LeBron at the barbershop where, he's doing the whole barbershop thing where it's predominantly Negroes. And then he's in there doing predominantly Negro things. So if he was sitting at the shop talking about whatever, I don't think he would have highlighted NASCAR as a premium attraction for a city or Vanderbilt or hockey. But it was the environment that he was in, the sport he was playing that has its own connotations to it. So optically, it just looked crazy. And so it doesn't take, and so for him to sit there and act oblivious to it And for him to sit there and gaslight everybody, for him to sit there and go, hey man, I'm a grown man and I'm entitled to not like to play in a certain city. He also named Milwaukee. Yeah, there's a lot of Negroes in Milwaukee too, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it don't sound right, you know. If you let him go on further, he would have said Detroit, Atlanta. Hey man, they probably edited those out. He probably went on a whole tirade, So all I gotta say, at least for this initial segment here, is that optically it just looked crazy. And for him to sit there and go, I can't see why people put 2 and 2 together. I mean, bro, it's not very far of a stretch for somebody to go, it looks like you're putting on in front of a different environment. Just because you're in a different environment, it looks like you're putting on and talking down your own people to make yourself look like you ain't one of those Negroes, which is typical type of behavior that people see when people are trying to suck up to another group of people. And I don't subscribe to these terminologies, but when you deal with dominant society and all this other stuff, and when those people are trying to assimilate into that, one of the best ways of doing it is saying that I'm one of you all and I'm not like the others. I like soccer and NASCAR and Vanderbilt, not hot wings and booty shakers, for instance. But what are your thoughts, man, on LeBron James getting called out for being disrespectful to the city of Memphis, and then him doubling down saying, I don't like playing there? What are your thoughts, bro?
I agree with you on the optics. The optics is what he's fighting against. And, LeBron, outside of his playing career, one of the things that he's been able to carefully craft for himself is being an individual that is a spokesperson for and advocate for someone who fights on behalf of his community. He's done that throughout his career, whether it's his social media stuff or his school stuff or any of the various stances that he's taken socio-politically. He does so in the service of trying to uplift his community. So if he is as intelligent as everyone tells me that he is, and I don't want to take anything away from him because I would posit that he is a smart person, then I think a smart person would at the very least be aware that such comments would rub people the wrong way. And rather than acknowledging that, he is choosing to essentially say, I'm too old to care anymore, which, if that's a card that you want to play, fair play. Admittedly, as I have gotten older, I have also found myself at various points saying, I am now too old to care anymore about certain things. So if that's the route that he is choosing to take, then so be it. But optically, it does look a little crazy. And I do think it is beneath his intelligence, his apparent intelligence, to at least not acknowledge the fact that there is an awareness towards those optics, juxtaposed to the way that he's been always somebody who's trying to work towards the betterment of his community in his own individual ways. Now, having said that, I do think people need to stop getting so upset when LeBron and people like LeBron talk like this and understand the situation for what it is. LeBron is a capitalist. He's a capitalist. LeBron is a capitalist. You don't become a billionaire if you're not a capitalist. And I'm not trying to say that he shouldn't be a billionaire or shouldn't be a capitalist. I'm just stating it for what it is. LeBron's a capitalist. And when you are a capitalist, there's a fine line between personal interests and initiatives that are truly supposed to work to the betterment of your community. And it's difficult to toe both of those lines at the same time. A comparison I often draw to this is Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith likes to do this very interesting thing where he tries to be an uplifter for his community where convenient, while at the same time also being an utter opportunist from the standpoint that he is always on the lookout to advance his personal interests and his personal career above all else. You don't rise to the highest ranks of ESPN and become ESPN's highest paid employee, signing huge contracts and doing all of this other stuff if you're not an opportunist, if you're not an opportunist and you're not a capitalist. And being an opportunist at that level, being a capitalist at that level, does mean that at certain points it's going to be difficult for you to do things that are completely in the service of your community, because you can't serve those two masters at the same time. It's hard to do it. It's just hard to do. It's hard to be corporate head honcho and be somebody who's on the ground floor trying to help your community. That's why people like Maya Moore retired early. Maya Moore retired when she still could have averaged 25 a game in the WNBA. She retired because you can't average 25 a game in the WNBA while at the same time affecting change in the way that she wants to do it. Like, you can't be a full-time advocate for lessening, lengthy prison sentences and truly be fighting on the front lines to try and enact all of this legislation. You can't serve that master and be a full-time 25 a game WNBA player. There's going to be a slippage somewhere. And if you care enough about one of them, you have to choose that one and forego the other. But people like Stephen A. Smith and LeBron try to play this game where they want all the money and they want all the notoriety and they want all the business moves and they want to be the corporate head honcho and make all of these different moves, but at the same time make it seem as though you're on the front lines for your community. And you can't do both at the same time. And when they disappoint you, you get upset, a la what's happening right now with LeBron. When at the end of the day, LeBron does what he does, but he's also a capitalist. He's also an opportunist. So I just think people need to recognize that, because maintaining the appropriate amount of perspective for who and what these people actually are will help you sleep at night and prevent you from getting so upset whenever they make comments like that. Because LeBron optically should be aware of how those comments would play out, but he's also an opportunist. He's also a capitalist. So in the future, he doesn't want to potentially compromise or put at risk any potential business opportunities that may be had in the city of Nashville, or that may be had when it comes to NASCAR or hockey, or what else did he mention? Vanderbilt, because he's always on the lookout for the next business move. And sometimes that is diametrically opposed to what's in the best interest of working to uplift your community. So just put him in the same box as Stephen A. Smith. He's a capitalist. Stephen A. Smith is one of these people who wants to be looked at as somebody who's always fighting on behalf of his people. And the way that he's able to do that is he's able to strong arm ESPN into allowing them to film episodes of First Take at HBCUs. So that's my contribution to my community. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to be corporate head honcho and become a multi-million-dollar, super rich, wealthy, highest paid ESPN employee person on my own personal front. And sometimes you can't serve those two masters at the same time. So just understand it for what it is and just move on.
Yeah. And, LeBron, he's definitely played both sides of the fence, with his social media post or whatever else he does, wherever he wants to, interject and, be a civil rights leader himself. He has a history of that. So, I think that's tone deaf for him to be saying what he's got to say about Memphis and Milwaukee. And I didn't know about these MLK shoes. That's also tone deaf. I didn't even know about that, but that don't feel right. And he did it. So, but am I surprised? Not at the slightest. And LeBron is a capitalist. He is a opportunist, and he's a good old boy. And that conversation was a good old boy conversation, aired on YouTube. And so I'm not surprised that he is as matter of fact about it as he is. So during All-Star break, the media had their own questions outside of regular questions, and they asked LeBron about our boy Denny Abdia, and him being the first Israeli player, an all-star thing, and all this other good stuff, and and they asked him about the state over there, and LeBron proceeds to go, I've heard great things. Can't wait to visit. And he just went on this little, I wouldn't call it a soliloquy, but he definitely had very rosy things to say. And he'd better have rosy things to say about that state. So let's fast forward to now, where I don't know if it was unprovoked or not. I think they just asked him, what city don't you like playing in? And first thing he says is, well, Memphis. And instead of hearing, I hear great things, can't wait to go back. He says that it's trash, basically. They should move to what do you call it? Nashville. And so when you are serving two masters, but you serve one master more, it becomes clear in these interviews, conversations, or even actions. So when they asked him that during All-Star break, he knows who his master is. So he answered accordingly. Then when it came to this one, where they didn't even ask him about the city of Memphis, he gave them the city of Memphis, which we explained earlier why it has the connotations that it has. And he put a foot on that so-called master because he doesn't really serve that one. He pays lip service to that community because it sounds good. And so in this context, and this is why, and so he can say whatever he wants. And if people want to say that we're blowing this out of proportion, if I played in the NBA, because I saw a clip where Kevin Durant said he don't like playing in Memphis too. But he wasn't on a golf course, yupping it up, talking about hockey as well. That's no different than Meek Mill bunny hopping on a tennis court. So when people see this footage, people go, oh, okay, well, and so if I'm blowing it out of proportion, they can say that, hey, man, if you played in the NBA and you've been playing for 20 years and you keep traveling around all of these cities, and then you go to a place like Memphis and they got you in basically a holding cell, you don't feel comfortable going out and doing the city with your family because of the safety risk and stuff like that. Milwaukee too. Milwaukee got safety risk as well. So I can hear all of that, but excuse me, that's not what he was. He didn't have to answer it like that. Is the problem. And for somebody that's supposed to be as socially aware as he is, he should be able to, and the ambassador that I don't want to say self-proclaimed, but I mean, he carries himself as if he is an ambassador. Then you don't want to speak that level of dismissiveness towards a city that is highly populated with your own people. So I just think that this, to me, was revealing to him knowing where the real power is, and at least for him. And so he'll cut corners and say something about somebody else. But when it comes to his own people and where they at, there's no need to respect that. There's no need to, and I'll double down on it. And that level of their ice is colder than ours is what people can clearly see. And then that's where the optics come in at. So he can say whatever he wants after this. He could try to explain himself away at the shop. But to me, I saw what I needed to see in that clip. And it does look like he's placating and pandering and making himself look like he's part of the good old boy club instead of part of the group of people that he makes social media posts about. So, yeah, he can have it.
Yeah, the difference between him and Kevin Durant saying that is Kevin Durant hasn't, at least to nowhere near to the degree that LeBron has. Kevin Durant has not curated a persona for himself as this, socio-political advocate the way that LeBron has. So it just hits different when LeBron says it, because LeBron's made the statements, he's told, cops on social media, you're next, we're coming for you. He's worn the Trayvon Martin hoodie. He's done all of that stuff, right? So like, that's that, and Kevin Durant hasn't necessarily walked in that light. So it just hits different when Durant says it versus when LeBron says it. Plus, once again, LeBron is, from what I am told by media and other people who advocate on his behalf, how aware he is, how conscientious he is, how gifted and intelligent that he is. Well, I'm going to apply that same standard when it comes to your public remarks. You should be intelligent to at least know that there's a reason why those comments would rub people the wrong way. And you don't necessarily have to apologize for anything, because I'm not for that either. If that's what you believe, then stand on it. Don't apologize or walk it back, but also don't act like you don't get that that's what people are a bit upset about and otherwise be dismissive towards it. But at the end of the day, like I said, LeBron, to me, the stuff that these people do politically, socially, you have to take that in with a grain of salt, because you don't become a billionaire if you're not a capitalist. You don't become a billionaire if not for you being an opportunist. And capitalists and opportunists are going to capitalize and opportunistically make their way up the ladder. And they're going to try to toe the line between serving their best interests while also trying to be this beacon for positivity in the world. And at times, those two notions are conflicting with one another. And more often than not, the person at hand is going to choose self-preservation and their capitalistic endeavors over being this socially aware uplifter for their community. Most people are going to make that call, because at the end of the day, a capitalist is what a capitalist is, and they're going to look out for their best interests. I often, like a lot of times with these kinds of situations, to me, the greater level of fault is with us as people who place an unreasonable amount of faith in people like him, to the point where we get disappointed whenever they do stuff like this or make comments like this. Because if you just understand where these people are coming from truly, which is that they are a capitalist willing to take their social activism to a certain extent, so long as it doesn't compromise their bottom line, then you'll understand the game for what it is. And all these people play the same game, because the only way to really do that on that level, where you don't care and you really are about that life and you're really about that social activism stuff, is if you're willing to make those sacrifices. So if you don't see LeBron doing what Maya Moore did, understand it for what it is, because that's really the only way that you can do it to its fullest extent.
Yep. So, hey, I'm with you. I ain't asking for an apology, because that'll just be fake as hell. So, he can say whatever he says, but I don't like his dismissive nature and how he handled this. If this was another community of people that he said this towards, he would have been a lot more remorseful, not so matter of fact, and whatever. So he could say that, oh, did I say that I don't like black people, or I don't blah blah blah. But again, bro, everything surrounding it, the implications are there. So to act oblivious to it, instead of acknowledging that and saying, hey, look, I get it, it is predominantly, or there is a large majority, but that's not what I was getting at. He could have just at least been more remorseful in his response. Instead, it was even more dismissive than his initial statement, and basically telling people to get over it. But if there's another group of people, he's not going to sit there and tell people to get over it. So that's the part about it that I don't like. So, but hey, man, just another chapter in the book of LeCaps. You know what I'm saying? So enjoy your hockey and your Vanderbilt and your NASCAR, LeBron. But you know, he's going to keep doing what he does, and I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, man. Capitalists are always going to look out in their best self-interest. It just is what it is, man. Stop looking at these people as if they really are public servants. They're just people with a lot of money. They had a big bag, and from time to time, they'll do certain things that make you feel good or that are positive. But you know, their capitalistic motivations, more often than not, are going to be the thing that went out.
Yep. 100.
Shout out to Memphis, man. I've never been to Memphis. Don't know if I'll ever be in Memphis, but shout out to Memphis.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Memphis, man.
And now we have Iggy Azalea, who I do believe has graduated to friend of the channel status. She's, you know, no longer making music, and I guess she,
thank God,
you know, so you know, she claims that the music industry phased her out because they didn't want her involved anymore. So she has to find something to do with her time, and now she's a content creator, and she's partnered with this kid Neon, who's a popular kick streamer. And on one of their latest episodes, I guess, if that's a word that we can use to describe whatever it is that they do, they got onto the subject of red pill content and the manosphere and alpha males in general. And, you know, Iggy Azalea basically said that, you know, guys who consume red pill content or are involved in the manosphere or, you know, identify themselves as alpha are actually soy boys and betas masquerading as alphas. So this got a lot of people talking on the internet. This says Iggy Azalea says male alpha streamers and their viewers are the real soy boys. During an episode on a kick stream with Neon, rapper turned streamer Iggy Azalea shared her thoughts on the toxic wave of manosphere streams that brag about being alpha males. She suggested that the likes of Sneeko, Andrew Tate, and Myron Gaines, who are all part of the anti-Semitic misogynistic manosphere bubble, are projecting an image that isn't true to themselves. Many of the controversial influencers within the manosphere scene also sell courses and host podcasts that they claim will make their viewers stronger, more masculine men. She didn't name any of them directly, but it's hard not to draw a conclusion about who she's referring to here. There's something of a cottage industry of toxic male streamers and influencers who proclaim to be the ideal figure of masculinity, but they've come increasingly under criticism for their negative influence on young boys in recent years. Recently, legendary British journalist and broadcaster Louis Theroux highlighted the red pill manosphere ecosystem with a Netflix documentary that got a lot of attention. So we'll go ahead and get out of here. I didn't read any of the quotes because I'm actually going to play some sound from Iggy Azalea herself so that we can get the full breadth of what she had to say on the subject. All right, so here's Iggy Azalea talking about how red pill content creators and any man who watches red pill content creators or pays attention to red pill content is actually a soy boy.
Damn.
And a beta.
I don't know, guys. I think that the soy boys actually might be the red pillars. Here's my thing. Hear me out, though, before we get into this, because I need to focus on Blackjack.
Okay.
If you were really alpha,
yeah,
why would you need to even be thinking or getting advice on this subject? Like, a wolf is just out there hunting. He doesn't need fucking all this advice about it. I don't know. It makes me think that secretly that is beta. Is it not? I don't know. I just know if I was fucking a guy and he was like, I watch podcasts on how to be a man, I'd be like, weak. I don't know. You shouldn't need to get like, I don't know. I'm not watching podcasts about how to be a fucking woman.
They're low key. Damn, the chat's saying facts.
Facts. Like, it's kind of a pussy move to be like, I need life help. It's like, okay, pussy. That's not alpha in itself. You'd just be out there raw dogging life if you were really alpha. So I don't know. So I actually have not watched any red pill things I don't have a huge opinion, but I do think if it were that alpha, wouldn't you be just blazing your own path? Why do you need to buy a course on how to live your life? I don't know.
All right, so that is what the ever insightful Iggy Azalea had to say about red pill content. So does she have a point with any of that?
Yeah, I mean, she has a point. You know, that the red pill content is it's a grift. You know, she didn't use those terms, but I'll say that it's a grift, and that there's a large amount of soy boys that are ingesting that content. So I will agree with her there. Now, this wasn't a dissertation take. You know, I felt like she was just, you know, shooting from the hip there. So I'm not gonna grill her on that. It's more nuanced than that, but it is more nuanced than that. I do think red pill content is a psyop. I do believe that it is intended to sow division between males and females. I do feel like that. And but I also felt as though there was a cry for reassurance from a lot of men out there that have had too much soy. And so because of that, they've lived a soy type of lifestyle. And because they are in a beta state, they try to watch content to help reinvigorate the alpha that's within them. Okay, so if society has been, if you are a wolf, but you have been raised by a pack of domesticated dogs, there's that longing in you to get out there in the wild again and be a wolf. So you might have to learn from a wolf to get back out there. So it's a two-pronged thing. I feel as though the content came about in a way where I would say semi-organically, that there was a way where there was people out there making content, but then I really feel as though it was turned into something else.
Yeah,
it got co-opted and became a lot more aggressive than its initial form was intended to be.
Yeah.
And so what everybody is aware of is the extremists, you know, the jihadists of red pill stuff. So anecdotal thing, and I'll let you go. So I had a job back in the day doing content moderation. Never heard of red pill stuff. Then I started coming across this content because it's part of my job. And then I'm hearing some of these conversations and I'm going, you know what? I've been saying that for the last 3 or 4 years. There's a lot of cap going on out here. And I feel as though I've been trained to get run over. And so I'm listening to these guys talk, you know, taking their videos down, but still going, hey, you got a point there, bro. Now I'm listening to this stuff and I'm like, hey, you know, that's right. That's right. That's right. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Now that guy sounds like he has a problem. And so what I was able to gather from, you know, getting this content as a part of my job, what I was able to gather was that there's a lot of truth in what these guys are saying, but then there's also a lot of extremists that really are soy boys, that really were guys that were getting stuffed in the locker in life. And they just hate women. So, and I think the two got conflated.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the co-opting nature of all of this stuff, where there's podcast agencies who get a studio and hire people and do all of this stuff and come up with an algorithm that's going to get the most views and likes. And then we got this whole extremist manosphere thing going. And it was an organic thing where men were going, hey, previous generations were getting hung out to dry, and we're products of that. No longer. We don't want to be that. But then I think it got turned into this extremist rhetoric that, of course, the people that fell victim to these extremist ideologies exhibit even more soy behavior, because what they're watching is a bastardized version of like an awakening for a man. So could Iggy Azalea say all of these things? No. All right. And she's not a man, so she's not going to get it. And, you know, whatever. And it's freaking Iggy Azalea. So, but from her lens as a woman, seeing these things, that is, I would say that's it's not a completely accurate synopsis of it, but I can see why she came to that conclusion. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Iggy Azalea just smashing the manosphere, basically saying that they're all soy boys who aren't real alphas? What are your thoughts, bro?
I completely agree with your appraisal of the history of red pill content, 100%. Where when I first even learned that it even had a term, more than a decade ago, when it was in its infancy stages, I would watch certain content creators say things and I would identify with it because they were saying things that I was saying in private or around y'all, you know what I'm saying, in casual conversation. And I thought that I was a weirdo who thought like this. Turns out more guys think like this, right? So like, initially, before it was even called red pill, there was this notion of men needing to focus on maximum self-improvement, right? So there was an idea that we had gone a bit too far in terms of being slaves to vagina and overly prioritizing the pursuit of women, and in the process of doing that, focusing on your own maximum self-improvement. Self-improvement from an educational standpoint, from an occupational standpoint, all of that does involve increasing your financial portfolio, increasing your income and your earnings, increasing your mode of dress. All of that was packaged as self-improvement. And the idea was you focus on that more than you focus on the pursuit of women. Because when you focus on maximizing self-improvement, the women are going to be a natural byproduct of focusing on that self-improvement. So from that standpoint, red pill back in those times was a reasonable concept. But I completely 100% agree with you. Somewhere along the way, it got co-opted by a movement that was personified by guys who were angry at the world because of their perceived failure in the Department of Women.
Yes.
So because they didn't focus on their own self-improvement and they were too overly focused on the pursuit of women, and they experienced routine rejection or just an overall lack of results when it comes to making progress with women in general, they internalized it, took it personally, and then projected it as a problem with the rest of the world, as opposed to understanding that if I just focus on my own self-improvement, everything else will fall by the wayside. So I completely agree with your appraisal of the situation. So from that standpoint, what she is saying does come with a valid point, because these days, red pill content has been overtaken by this anti-woman, literal woman-hating ideology and rhetoric, in which there's an inability on a part of a larger percentage of men to understand the importance of prioritizing self-improvement over the mundane, fruitless pursuit of women in a vacuum. So you're 100% correct on that. Here's the issue that I have with her saying this. There's receipts on this. you know, she's the same person who said, if you don't make more money than her, you're not worthy of having sex with her. She used the word, she said effable. I don't want to say it on the stream because I don't want to compromise any potential, any potential exposure of this content. We still in the beginning stages, so I don't want to rock the boat too much with YouTube. But she said, if you don't make more money than her, or if you don't retain a certain amount of income in comparison to the income that she makes, you're not effable. She has also said that if we can't smoke weed after we have sex, then you're not effable. You're not a guy that I would want to be with. So even though she is saying these things, she is still the personification of a lack of an understanding of what the notion of red pill and alpha even means to begin with. Because to her, like being a millionaire is enough to qualify as alpha, full stop. Because if you're doing all of that stuff that she just talked about, where you're out here getting it in raw dog in life, you probably make a lot of money, and therefore you're an alpha because you make a ton of money. And that's another toxic aspect of red pill content that's been conflated with what truly constitutes red pill alpha, or whatever adjective that you want to describe it, is that all you have to do is make the money, and you have satisfied the requisite qualifications that are needed, which of course is a false appraisal of the situation. And so, this is an individual who had a child with a guy who himself I would characterize as being anything but an alpha male. So I would posit that she would not know a true alpha or red pill man if she ran across it in the street, because she doesn't understand it. I don't think she understands what it truly means. I think what she understands is, how much are you making? What's your income? How much motion do you have financially? And if you're focusing on making sure that you have that much motion financially, then by default you qualify as alpha.
Right.
And that, of course, is not true either. So she also doesn't really understand what any of it means.
Correct.
And you can look at the way that she's oriented her own personal life to draw a fair enough conclusion that she doesn't have a fair enough understanding of what it means. So even though in a vacuum her point is correct, because if you truly are walking in that energy and you truly are doing these things, there are certain behaviors that you're not adhering to. So she's not wrong in saying that. She's also not wrong in her own personal appraisal of what constitutes alpha, because she don't know what it means anyway. And to her understanding of what it means is pretty consistent with not all, but a large amount of women in the world who just think that you have to make the money and then you've already satisfied all the qualifications. So all the way around, there's just a lot of confusion when it comes to this particular subject. Yeah. And I think that she made a point, even though in making her point, she exhibited her own confusion with what's going on with the situation.
Agreed. And I think that's the overwhelming majority of women that are aware of red pill content, because they've only seen the results of it for the most part. Because I don't know how many of them have actually, done the research on it. And also would have, been there from the ground floor before it got co-opted. And so, it's not many that do that. They just see the byproduct of it, And because they've been seeing the byproduct of it or dating the byproduct of it, they hate it. And honestly, what they have, such an intricate topic, because it's kind of like with Kevin Samuels, right? When Kevin Samuels was making his content, I was torn a little bit because I can pick up his messaging for what he was trying to get at, but I also knew that he was being sensational for ratings and likes, clicks, shares, and stuff like that. And so when it came to Kevin Samuels, I was torn because I would sit there and watch what he got to say. And some of the ways that he handled these conversations, I was like, you know what? I would debate with somebody with that mentality in the past. But the way that he's handling this situation, there is no debate. You know, the way that you see it clearly before you even met this person is how you should continue to be moving. And this person here that's introducing, you know, plausible deniability, lack of accountability, you know, and all these other traits and stuff, you would debate with these people, get in a relationship with some of these people. And so some of the ways that he handled this stuff was, I felt was like, that is on point. And then there was some situations that I felt as though the way he handled it was sensational in the aspect of, well, you know, of course this is going to get a lot of likes, shares, and viewership and stuff like that. So that was kind of like my thing with Kevin Samuels. But the thing is that, at least for me, I was able to parse out the content from the sensational, from the actual root of what he was trying to get at in some of these discussions. And I was like, I can take that. Some people took the sensationalism and felt like they had to be sensational themselves, and took that content that they was watching on Facebook Live or wherever they was at and take that into their house during COVID and start blasting their old lady and getting, you know, becoming, you know, doing a 180, you know, on their own mentality because they don't watch a few Kevin Samuels videos. And then so women got a lot of the the shrapnel from some of this content. Some fair, some not. And so that's why this whole thing was getting torn and divided or whatever. But at the height of this content, I would say it really blew up during lockdown.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah, it really blew up because when I was doing content moderation, that was in you know, right leading up to 2020. And that's when I first started seeing it. It was still crazy at that time, but it really blew up during lockdown. And so a lot of women was catching shrapnel. Some of the shrapnel was fair, some of it wasn't. And so the crazy part about content out there is unless it is clearly spelled out for the viewers, people tend to take in more than they should. You know, stuff you should be taking with a grain of salt, even us, right? And so, but people have been trained to absorb whatever they watch on TV, or, you know, TV has changed the phones and streaming, and they absorb, I think, a little bit too much of that. And so what ends up happening is either they've watched extremist content, or people that were balanced or whatever, but also had to entertain people. They took a little bit too much, and they took some of that part that was supposed to be entertainment and started lashing out on people. And like, this is what real alphas do. I've never called myself an alpha, not even, you know, because I don't even know what that means. I know what you're trying to say, but what does that even mean for real? You know what I'm saying? Because there can only honestly be one alpha if you really want to, you know, do this thing, you know, because at some point you have to be so alpha that you the alpha rule the world, because you're more man than everybody else. So that whole premise of an alpha man and all this other stuff is, I think that's a little bogus. And I think that's part of the propaganda with it. So for her, that was one of the things that she was pointing out, is alpha, because guys are running around talking about alpha, beta, sigma. Mm-hmm. I'm a sigma man. Once sigma man came up, I was like, what is this?
That one really threw me off. I was actually, I remember the first time that I heard these types of terms being used in casual conversation. Yeah. I remember when I was still living in Tallahassee, and this is I want to say this is circa 2021. 2021, somewhere around there, 2020 to 2021, somewhere in that territory. There was a girl that I was like seeing at the time, and I went to go. Her sister also lived in Tallahassee, but her sister was away somewhere, so she was house sitting for her sister. So she invited me to come hang out with her while she house sat for her sister at her sister's house. And I got over there, and they were she and another friend of hers were walking her sister's dog. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I got out the car and I could see that they were having like a lively conversation. So I went over there to join in on the conversation, and they were basically making fun of one of the men who lived in a house across the street from her sister's house. And, I'm listening to how they're talking about this guy, and, they weren't really describing anything objectively bad or negative about the guy. They were describing very simple, basic, reasonable things about him, but they were calling him beta as a result. And they were saying, she made certain comments like, well, this guy, the guy who lives across the street, something happened. And long story short, she was basically like, this guy's a beta. That was the first time I even heard a man being referred to using that kind of terminology. And so at that point, I realized, this is actually matriculated down into regular everyday speech now. This is no longer internet vernacular. And from that point moving forward, I'd stop talking to her because I could see that she was on that timeline in terms of consuming all of this content and believing that alpha means man fits this specific profile. And all of this kind of stuff, which is completely based upon what she's been watching online for far too much. So I definitely 100% agree with you in terms of like the way that this stuff is transpired. But, the last thing that I'll say, speaking of Kevin Samuels, because I was actually going to bring him up, one of the things that I appreciated about his commentary was he didn't use words like alpha and red pill. Well, his thing was high value. So he always used to talk about the high value man, but he had very specific requirements for what constitutes that. So he would talk about, you've been working in your field for X amount of years. You've been building this kind of a profile up for X amount of years. You have a network of multiple men who are a part of your immediate peer group that you have cultivated over X amount of years. So he would bring up all of these things to describe what is a high value man. And he would, and in bringing that up, he would say, if you are someone who came into money fast, tunnel vision type stuff, just because you make the money and you're a millionaire does not mean that you are a high value man. If you are an entertainer or a professional athlete or a trust fund kid or someone who came into some kind of an inheritance or you won the lottery or any of those sorts of things, just because you're a millionaire and you can do what you want financially and you have the financial profile does not mean that you are a high value man. And one of the things that he tried to get through to a lot of women who fancy themselves on the lookout for a high value man is understanding that they focus too much on the yield of the income without taking into account an understanding of all of the other qualifications that go into it. Y'all are just looking at whether he makes six figures or makes $1 million a year, and you're automatically qualifying him as high value. And so the reason why I bring that up is because I think high value is a facsimile for red pill and alpha and all of these other terms. And women like Iggy Azalea fall into the trap of equating value with income. So if you're not on that trajectory where you're making the income, even if you have all those other requisite qualifications, women like her disqualify a man who's not on the income train as not being alpha or red pill or whatever. And the important thing to note about these various ideas is based upon the things that Kevin Samuels used to say, which I am inclined to agree with. I'm not trying to necessarily, agree with the exact terminologies that he used to use. But what I did agree with was the spirit of the idea that it takes self-improvement and work to put yourself in a space in which you retain all of the qualifications necessary to truly be identified as an alpha or a high value person or whatever. Like it takes self-improvement, it works and work. It takes focus therein in order to be able to walk in that light. And I agree with you. I don't think anybody who's put in that work walks around calling themselves alpha.
No,
like no guy really does that. I don't think any guy who's like balanced in terms of his mind, who doesn't watch internet drivel, walks around saying, I'm an alpha. I'm a true red pillar.
That's a good way to tell everybody you're not one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And so but all that said, it does take work to get there. It takes self-improvement and a prioritization of maximizing on oneself in order to work your way into that stratosphere.
Yes.
It takes self-improvement and work. And a lot of women don't grasp the idea of the work that it takes to get in. They just want to know this. They just want to eat the sausage. They don't want to know how it's made. So she made comments talking about she doesn't want to walk into a man's house and see self-help books or, you know, books or literature on how to do better with women or any of these sorts of things. Like, you think that that's lame and unattractive, but in order for a man to work himself into that light, it takes a focus on self-improvement. So it's weird in that self-improvement has become in a lot of ways inherently unattractive to women, so much so that you shouldn't even mention your journey to them. You should just accept that they aren't going to find that attractive and just take advantage of the fact that you get to be the beneficiary of the work that you put in. But don't explain to them how you got there, because they're going to think it's lame.
Yep.
And her own confusion when it comes to the notion of what all of this constitutes is exhibited in her own choices in men.
Yep.
Because she gets with a guy who's an entertainer who has a litany of issues that are very quote unquote beta, but she wouldn't know it because the guy makes a lot of money. He's a millionaire entertainer. So for her, he's met all the qualifications that she needs.
Correct.
Even though she's none the wiser to the fact that this guy that you've had a child with is himself a beta.
Yes.
So all the way around, there's a lot of confusion with this stuff, and people are consuming way too much of this content. But at the end of the day, men shouldn't be shamed for prioritizing, maximizing self-improvement. And that's what the true spirit of red pill content is supposed to be about. Not the sensationalization that you talked about, not the man-hating ideology that you alluded to earlier. That's become a part of the conversation. But at the end of the day, the true essence of this is about men deprioritizing the blind pursuit of women in a vacuum and prioritizing self-improvement, which is something that we should celebrate in our society and not shame as being lame or unattractive, even though that's where we have gotten to in the world.
Yep, 100, bro. And last thing I'll say is she said that she doesn't watch content on how to be a woman. Well, maybe she should.
Maybe she
maybe she would. Maybe she wouldn't have been making box rap and getting phased out. Maybe she wouldn't have been busting wide open for Playboy Cardi. Because real women wouldn't do that. So yeah. So a lot of confusion in the room for Miss Azalea.
For sure.
But hey, points well said and points well taken, bro. More interesting of a topic than I thought it was going to be, man. So,
yeah.
A lot of nuance, but I think we hit a lot of nails on the head here.
It is a lot of nuance. And you know, the very last thing that I'll say, women do this thing often where they make the mistake of speaking only from the prism of their own reality. They fail oftentimes to realize that men and women live fundamentally different realities. The reason why Iggy Azalea would never buy a book on how to be a woman is because she will never get rejected by a man for not knowing how to be a woman. More often than not, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no guy is going to walk into her house and see a book on how to be a better woman and feel like she's lame because of it. As a matter of fact, a guy is probably going to be impressed that she has that in her house.
Exactly.
You know, but men and women live fundamentally different realities. And a lot of women fail to understand that. They've been living within the prism of their own perspective for so long, not taking into account that we live fundamentally different realities. You don't necessarily need to put work in on self-improvement in order to be appealing to men, but men have to put work into their own self-improvement in order to be more appealing to women.
100%, bro.
But she don't get that because she's never had to deal with that. If she's pretty enough and has a nice enough body, there will be plenty of male takers for her.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot say the same. We literally have to build it, and they don't. So they just don't get the difference.
100, bro. Hey, shout out to shout out to the men out there that's watching. How about that, bro? Shout out to the brothers out there and the sisters out there that understand.
That understand what red pill actually means, not this weird internet stuff that we got going on.
And you extremists can kick rocks, so they probably think we're over here white knighting. And
Yeah.
Get out of here, bro.
Yeah, they'll probably say that we was just simping for the last 30 minutes.
Get out of here, man. Jeez.
We move on to Jake Paul, who is looking to stir up controversy by responding to a Druski skit with his own comedy skit involving blackface.
Oh,
so for anybody who is unaware, Druski went viral recently because he put out a conservative woman skit where he was basically in whiteface. This is not the first time that Druski's done this. We did the NASCAR. We covered when he did the NASCAR skit not too long ago, where he was also in whiteface then, essentially making fun of NASCAR culture. But this time around, his skit involving, his making fun of
Erica Kirk.
Erica Kirk and just conservative white women, or the archetype of that. It's ruffling some people's feathers. One of those individuals includes Jake Paul, who is suggesting that he's going to make a response skit to this where he's in blackface. So this says Jake Paul wants to respond to Druski's Erica Kirk skit with a blackface sketch. Druski recently released a skit joking about conservative white women in the United States, and folks couldn't help but draw parallels with Erica Kirk. While the political figure herself hasn't responded to it, Jake Paul recently told Theo Vaughn about his controversial and undoubtedly risky idea for a response sketch. As caught by No Jumper on Instagram, Paul recently appeared on Vaughn's podcast where they discussed the comedian's viral skit. Theo acknowledged the massive backlash that blackface would cause, positing that Jake would need to collaborate with a significant black entertainer to mitigate the controversy. But the former Vine star wants to double down, not seeking approval. The two then discussed how former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faced a big backlash controversy years ago, as well as Jimmy Kimmel. In fact, Paul thought or possibly joked that the image Vaughn showed of Kimmel in blackface was of Shaquille O'Neal. So there is on the right there's a cutout screenshot of Druski's conservative white woman skit, which people are connecting to Erica Kirk. And here is Jake Paul and Theo Vaughn talking about the situation, and Jake Paul sort of rough drafting his idea for a skit in which he's in blackface.
You something, because I've been over the last couple of days calling makeup artists, and I was gonna do a response to this and like go and do like the full on
darker,
and just do it back, because why not?
Yeah.
Like, are we on the same playing field? Like,
I think if there's a way to do it, singing in well, this even this sentence, but if there's a way to do it, I've been here many times. If there's a way to do it, I think there needs to be some black support for the character. I think, like I'm saying, like say if Druski or I'm trying to think of somebody else.
Charles Barkley.
If you got one of those guys to be like, hey, Theo, I want you to do this skit with me. Let's do this.
But still, that's pussying out.
You think it is?
Yeah.
To me, there's a level of like,
doesn't that make us more like prejudice?
Like more prejudice?
That makes us, if we have to partner with someone. Druski just dropped this,
and he's done it a couple of times.
Exactly. I fucking love it. This is great. This is how humans should be.
I agree.
We should fucking make fun of each other. And I don't see in color, I see in truth and comedy. So like, what are we talking about?
So you're saying
what era are we living in?
Dude, Justin Trudeau did, and he's freaking dating Katy Perry. You see that, Justin Trudeau, the mayor of freaking Canada?
I was just with them.
No, you were not.
Yeah, at the JP Morgan summit.
He was B-facing. Look at him right there in the middle. Look at the one at the
B-facing.
He got caught for this before.
Yeah, look how dark he went. I mean, he went.
But to be fair, that picture's in black and white, so we can't tell how dark he went. But
That's fair. That's kind of fair. What about Jimmy Kimmel when he was blacking around over there? Bring that up, huh? Hey, look at him just blacking. I mean, look at that. Even the cross eyes.
that's Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
That's not Shaq.
That ain't fucking shit.
Blacking it up, huh?
B-face.
Oh, that's great.
Many folks did not like Druski's Erica Kirk skit, particularly those from the conservative world. This includes Trump, who encouraged Erica to sue him. Of course, the backlash Jake would get for blackface would be even more significant for obvious reasons. So presenting it as a one-to-one comparison is inaccurate. Considering Jake Paul's Trump support, his idea to respond to the sketch is unsurprising. Hopefully someone in his corner steers him away from the possibility. Elsewhere, Druski might be dealing with more drama as Charleston White accused Young Thug of threatening him at a Could Have Been Love reunion. All right, so there's Jake Paul, suggesting, aren't we all equal here? Why can't I make a response skit in blackface? What did you think about that exchange there?
I laughed more than I thought I would have. Mainly at Theo Vaughn because he really totes that line, man. He really he totes that line. But hey man, there's social ramifications and there's social things that people can really point to for blackface where it has its historical negative things that everybody can just look back and show and say, hey, you can't do that. So that's why he can't do it, and I say can't loosely because he can do whatever he wants, but that's why he would get backlash and people like Druski wouldn't. And because black people in America specifically, across the world, but in America where a lot of this stuff goes on with blackface and whatever, is that slavery or enslavement and Jim Crow, all the civil rights, all of that stuff leading up to where we are now. That is 400 years of an atrocity. And we can, a lot of people, history books can point to a group of people that were the antagonizers. And so we're fresh off of all of that stuff still going on, but fresh off of the perceived enslavement. And so it's still too fresh of a wound to call that comedy. And it's just from historical stuff. And because there's that, historical nature that's going on, somebody from that community that was being oppressed for 400 years, if they were to make a skit about the people that were oppressing them, well, they're fresh off of it. So it may make people from that community feel some type of way because they can't do it or because of whatever that person said, but the historical ramifications just aren't the same. It doesn't equate. It's not equal. So that's why somebody can, quote unquote, get away with it and you can't. But if there were other atrocities that went on in the world that people are very aware of, and somebody decided to make fun of that group of people who suffered those atrocities, that person would get canceled too. So you can't go around making fun of people who suffered an atrocity. It just doesn't go over well. So yeah, people may laugh, people whatever, but at the same time, people are very sensitive to people who went through such a traumatic event. And especially for people within our community that, again, at least 400 years minimum. All right. It's gone on a lot more than that But so the historical ramifications is what he's fighting up against. It's not cancel culture or blah, 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 blah. This is historical stuff. And, you know, you wishing to pull that out of your bag, you know, for what reason if we're all equal? Did you feel some type of way? Do you know what's going on there? So all in all, I feel as though Jake Paul may feel some type of way about that, and he may have highly considered it. But you know, I think Theo Von and his brand of comedy, I think where he was pretty much getting at is he totes that line, like I said. So it could come off as offensive to some people, but to me, it's him playing around. I think it's him playing around with it, but he wouldn't himself do it. But I think Jake Paul would. You know, I think Jake Paul.
No, I don't think Theo Von would do it at all. You can tell by the way he was tiptoeing around the language he was using.
Again, funny, man. But Jake Paul, I think Jake Paul really felt some type of way about that. So that's why I think that he was probably considering it, or that was a legitimate question from his side of why can't I do that? You know, I'm a professional troll. I should be able to have the license to do so. You can try that if you want. I don't think it'll go well. But hey, you never know. But what are your thoughts, man, on Jake Paul saying that, hey, I'm gonna come out with a blackface skit and see how that goes over? What are your thoughts, bro?
You can tell both of them know that they're walking a slippery slope because neither one of them actually used the word blackface.
Yeah.
Not even like Jake Paul, he paused when he was like, I'm just gonna go all the way, and then Theo Von's like darker. Like neither one of them had the balls to use the word blackface. So as much of a battery pack as Jake Paul may have in his back for this idea of responding to this skit, he knows he's walking a tightrope, which is why he couldn't even bring himself to use the word blackface, even though blackface, it's not like blackface is a word that's going to get censored, but even he still wouldn't even use that word. So he knows the deal with this. You know, years ago, this was like mid 2000s. I used to watch The O'Reilly Factor when Bill O'Reilly was on Fox News. This is when I first learned who Mark Lamont Hill was, because Mark Lamont Hill would be on Bill O'Reilly's show from time to time on Fox. And I remember there was one episode where Mark Lamont Hill was on Bill O'Reilly's show, and he had a bit that he did where he listed the top 10 most overrated white people. And, you know, he had a bunch of people on his list. Bill Clinton was on there. Elvis was on there. And he counted them down. And he gave his reasons as to why these are the top 10 most overrated white people. And so Bill Riley, after it was over, Bill Riley was like, now, Mark, what if I were to put a list together of the top 10 most overrated black people? Would I be able to do that? And Mark Lamont Hill was like, no, you can't do it. It's just a double standard you're going to have to live with. But no, you wouldn't be able to do that because you would get, you know, put into that bucket of being an all-out racist. And Bill O'Reilly didn't like that response because he, similar to Jake Paul, was like, well, if you can put a list together like that, why can't I put my own list together? I look at you as my peer. I look at you as my equal. I don't really think that I'm inherently above black people. Why can't I do that list myself? And Mark Lamont Hill was just like, because you just can't, bro. You just can't. And so, you know, I've seen this a lot in mainstream media, especially in like sports media in the news. I've seen that, I've mentioned this before, where making fun of white people is like fashionable in terms of like modern media, where it's become socially acceptable for people to be able to take liberties with making fun of white people in a general sense. You can make fun of white people in terms of how they vote. You can make fun of white people in terms of how they talk. You can make fun of white people in terms of how they identify themselves politically, socially. It's just kind of okay. It's implicitly understood that you can just kind of do this stuff and it's okay. It's acceptable. It's also understood that we are not at a point historically where you can do that with black people. You just can't do it. And the reason why is because of the historical context. And smart, reasonable people understand that. So it's just a double standard that you just have to accept. It just is. You know, I'm a man. Would I like to be able to benefit from a lot of the social liberties that women get to benefit from? I would absolutely love it. Like, I would love to be able to go to a bar and get in for free. I would like to be free. I would love to be able to go to I'm not a club person, but I'm just using this as an example.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to go to a club and skip the line. I love to be able to get in for free. I love to be able to drink for free to a certain amount of time. I would love to be able to enjoy a lot of these social liberties that women get to enjoy all the time, just by the sake of their mere existence. But I can't. And I can get on the internet and complain about the fact that we're all equal. Aren't women always complaining about the need for us to be equal? Aren't women always saying that they're equal to a man? Aren't women always talking about gender equality and how they need to make as much money as me and be viewed the same in society as me? Well, why can't I go to the club and get in for free? Why do I have to pay for all my drinks? Because you just have to, bro. That's just the way it is. Like, as a man, you have to accept that there is an inherent double standard when it comes to certain aspect of the gender equality conversation, given everything that's happened up to this point historically. If you are not reasonable minded enough to understand that, then maybe you need to take a seat somewhere and pick up a couple of books and just do a little bit of research on your own independently as to why that's the way things are playing out today. And it's the same with this conversation. Hey, white people, I get it. You want to be able to freely make fun of black people. You want to freely be able to say whatever you want to be able to freely make a blackface skit. And for people to say, oh, it's just a comedy bit. But we're not there yet. And the reason why we're not there yet is because from 1607 to about 1964, there were actual legal systematic things going on. And black people are still paying the price for it to this day.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm the last person to get on my racial soapbox about stuff. I'm over the whole race baiting, I'm over all of it. I'm over all of the content creators. I'm over all of the black people in the media who always engage in the victim Olympics, keeping black people in a certain headspace mentally where it's like, woe is me, I'm always a victim of my circumstance. I'm over that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to ignore history.
Correct.
So it is what it is, man. I think Jake Paul is just going to have to get used to the fact that there are certain double standards that he's going to have to live with. And to any other white people out there who feel some type of way about this kind of thing, I would just say, hey, listen, if you want to reserve the right to be able to make, comedy skits in blackface, we can do that. But in exchange, you give us all of your prime access to resources and economics. Like, if you're willing to give some of that up, then fine. Let's go ahead and talk about you being able to make blackface skits with impunity. But until we are but until we've reached a point in which there's an equitable stake in terms of access to resources and economics, then just live with the double standard, because in the grand scheme of things, it really is a small price to pay.
100, bro. And, I'll just take it, at least from my perspective, there's still blackface going on. It's just black people doing it. And, you just pay Negroes to jigaboo. And come on, man, get a little bit more ignorant over here. Why don't you just wave the fried chicken around? And they go do it. It's just not another race of people doing it. But that same level of laugh at black people's ignorance, they just pay ignorant black people to do it.
Box rap,
trap rap, you know what I'm saying? Literal Negroes walking around with fried chicken, dancing and acting crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, either through TV shows or whatever, See, this is the thing where, like, so with Chappelle, right? So with Chappelle's show, his show was so what it was because he would tote that line himself of making fun of black people, but also making fun of, other cultures who think black people are a certain kind of way.
Right. Yes.
And I think where he started to lose his creative ability is when it was like, we need you to go all the way, like Jake Paul said.
Well, he realized that people weren't getting what he was doing. That's the reason why he left.
And I don't know if it's maybe he said it. I don't know if it's the masses. I think it was the producers. I think
It was.
Yeah.
So it was a situation where the people behind the show, the studio specifically, Comedy Central,
correct.
They really thought he was making fun of his own people. They didn't realize that, in his mind, at least in his mind, they didn't realize that what his intent was to highlight the way other people make fun of black people.
And that probably may have been his point of view, but of course, I mean, I was not there, but the way that I look at it is, see, that form of comedy, and the reason why it resonated with everybody is because of the genius behind it. And the studios, they can play ignorant if they want. I think they understand the genius behind it, and they wanted the straight up ignorance. Because if there is this jigabooing that's going on with no redeeming qualities, that's ideal, because that's true, genuine blackface. But if there is a white man in blackface doing blackface, but to make fun of racism, then that guy that's doing blackface isn't necessary. He's only wearing the black skin and doing certain things to highlight the whatever in the racist group. But if it's just straight up, oh boss, I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? Ha ha ha. Negroes get tired from working. They lazy. If it's just straight up ignorance, then it's missing the plot, for instance. And I think where Dave's show, where he realized was the studio wanted it to be straight up fried chicken. You know what I'm saying? Straight up watermelon. And he said no. Key and Peele didn't. And other TV shows and other Negroes that get hired to do whatever, they don't say no. So it still goes on. They just pay black people to do it. And so if it happens, if a black person so happens to do what Druski did, then so be it. Jake Paul, if you don't like it, just create your own TV show with a black superstar, with a black star of the show, and have him do some, and you can get all your rocks off there, because nobody's going to say anything. And everybody's going to think just because the whole cast is black, it's a black show. And then you look at the studio, a la what that boy name? I ain't gonna bring him up in this one, but yeah, that type of stuff. So, I just think it goes on in a different format. So let's not, at least for me, I'm not confused about it. So if you just want to go and do the straight up thing, Jake Paul, so be it, and we'll see where that lands.
That is, he wants a 1-to-1, because he's one of those people who's like, I don't feel no type of way about black people. I like black people. Do I have my own views on things? Yes. But do I have a problem inherently with black people? No. Do I consider myself to be racist in any kind of way? No. Do I respect black people? No. Yes. I mean, do I respect black people? Yes. Do I feel as though I'm above them or we're not equal? No. So like in Jake Paul's mind, because he looks at the world equitably, he's like, why can't I do that? It's a 1-to-1 situation. Isn't the world trying to push equality? Yeah. I should be able to do it, because to me, it's just a 1-to-1 comparison of a comedy bit against another comedy bit. So there's this move there. I don't want to use the word movement because I don't want to make it seem like it's bigger than what it is. Mm-hmm. But there's a sentiment that I glean sometimes when I'm watching certain programming, where, there's white people who kind of feel like, hey, listen, I love everybody. Black people should be able to get it too. What's the big deal? And I understand the sentiment, but it all comes across in how you do it. And blackface is just one of those things that we're just not at a point historically where it falls into the bucket of, I should be able to do this too. It's just one of those things. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. But there are certain other things it's just like, look, man, I get it. I remember I brought her up before here, Lisa Lampanelli. Can't stand this lady, bro. I hate this woman's comedy. I truly do. Her whole, at least when she was in her, when she was at her peak and her most popular, the majority of her comedic thing was just talking about dating black men, right? So her shtick was like, I'm an overweight white woman, white men won't date me, but here I go with these black men dating me. And I personally didn't like that brand of comedy because I felt as though it subconsciously perpetuated the idea that black men will be so thirsty to be with a white woman that they'll take a white woman who's fat, right? Which was a thing that people said, but she kind of personified it in her comedy. I didn't appreciate that, but at the same time, am I going to necessarily feel as though she shouldn't be delivering that comedy? No, like she can deliver it. It didn't cross that line for me that Blackface would cross, in my opinion. It was a situation where, hey, do your thing. I don't like it, so I'm not gonna watch. I'm not paying to go to your show. But if there's other people who do like it and they get a laugh out of it, whatever. If there's other black people who get a laugh out of that crap, whatever. It is what it is. She reserves the right to be able to deliver that comedy as somebody who's going to do that on stage, because Lord knows I grew up watching a whole lot of black stand-up comedians making fun of white people all the time. So it is what it is. But there are just certain things that are understood. We are not at a point in which we are ready to relinquish that particular double standard. And Blackface just happens to be one of them. So Jake Paul's is going to have to live with that. I don't feel sorry for him at all. He could just spend his millions of dollars figuring out another constructive way to make fun of black people. It just can't be that. It just is what it is.
100%, bro. So, hey, man, shout out to Theo Von, shout out to Druski. No shout out to Jake Paul. It has nothing to do with this segment. It has everything to do about who Jake Paul is. So I'm not shouting him out, but everybody else gets a shout out.
Yeah, shout Theo Von know what it is. Theo Von know you can't do that.
Theo Von makes me chuckle, man. He's a funny dude, so he gets a pass.
All right, man. So now we've talked about Swae Lee on this channel before. As a matter of fact, I think we did a video talking about Swae Lee, putting Kamala Harris on blast. Didn't we do a video talking about that?
I think we did.
I'm pretty sure we did. We actually talked about the situation where he was basically saying Trump is the business. Don't vote for Kamala. Y'all need to do y'all research. And now he's walking that stuff back. He's walking all of that stuff back and basically saying that he would do it a different way. And of course he said this while on the Breakfast Club. So this says Swae Lee called out for walking back Kamala Harris comments. Coward ass B word. Swae Lee has retracted previous comments he made about Kamala Harris and admitted he didn't vote in the 2024 election. In an interview with the Breakfast Club, the same day of the debut of his solo album, Same Difference, the Ray Shrimmered rapper reflected on why he told his followers not to support Harris. At the time, I disagree with her, but I definitely will retract that statement. He told Charlemagne before wondering whether or not people took his advice seriously. As for why he did it, Swae claimed he was just seeing some stuff that rubbed him the wrong way. He then admitted that he didn't actually vote in the U.S. election that Harris was running in before expressing regret over his actions. Swae Lee's comments rubbed a number of fans the wrong way, with one ex-user branding him a coward and screenshotting a previous message he posted that showed his support for Donald Trump. So there is the post that Swae Lee originally made not too long ago. This was in July 2024. In which he says, you better go look at the things Trump did for blacks. He's actually done more than Biden and 80% of others. The media portrays it one way. The facts are right there to access. I will make a list tomorrow if you need. I used to not pay attention, but that last sleepy guy did damage, talking about Joe Biden. And so, yeah, now he's walking a lot of that back. So I'm going to play a couple of these clips it's a lot here, and I don't want this video to go too long, so I'm not going to play all of it, but we'll try to play enough to get people a general idea of what's going on here.
They still gonna be mad at you though, Swae Lee, because they feel like you're responsible for getting Trump in office because you literally told a generation of people not to vote for Trump, even though that's a lot of responsibility to put on one person.
Yeah, I would say, damn, they don't listen to me for political advice.
You said, do not vote for Kamala.
Yeah, at the time, you know what I'm saying, I disagree with it, but I definitely will retract that statement.
Too late, man. Trump is in office. Fuck this shit up.
3 years.
But I didn't really
in office because of Swae Lee.
Yeah,
I'm
people not taking
that.
my political advice. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the time, it's like they still gonna vote for who they saw fit. You know what I'm saying? So I hope they still went to the polls and just did exactly what they wanted to do. Like, I was just like seeing some shit that just like rubbed me the wrong way.
Did you vote?
No, I didn't vote.
Oh,
I didn't vote.
You did all that and didn't vote?
Oh Lord.
I ain't know who could I vote for.
But did you talk to anybody? Like, did you talk to anybody, that actually has knowledge of politics that you could have said, yo, man, tell me why I should vote for Kamala, or tell me why I should vote for Trump, or tell me why I shouldn't vote for Kamala.
That would probably been a good conversation. But I just started doing my own research, like just looking, just Googling. Yeah, Googling. Not Googling.
Google.
Yeah, actual like policies.
Damn. Policies upset you?
It's gonna upset people if I even say it.
Say it. Let's hear it.
And it's looking into it could have been propaganda. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't even like going back. I wouldn't even spoke on it. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
But you can
definitely it's no better now. Like, what's going on right now is like it's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? All type of different ways. You know what I'm saying? So
all right. So let me stop this one and play the other one so that we can keep it moving. So yeah, here's more from that same interview where he's talking about this. Oh wait, hold up.
Boom, they said you hated Kamala Harris. Is that true?
I was ready for that. I wanted you to ask me that too. Like, that's a great question to ask, and I wanted to clear that up too for sure.
Yeah,
I don't hate Kamala Harris, but like, I ain't never announced my solidarity with no politician. Like, some people they want Trump support. I'm like, you ain't never seen me with no MAGA hat, nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't support really no politicians. Like, cause I do my research, you know what I'm saying? I see what they really gonna do for the people. Like, what are they gonna do that's gonna affect my everyday life?
But you putting Kamala, don't vote for Kamala Harris. People just assume that
right.
It's only two candidates.
Cause I didn't denounce like Trump and shit either.
But do not
but
vote for Kamala.
It's public. It's public.
Campaign.
Everything on that. This is a new candidate. That's why I was like, Kamala is born. Like, don't think it's just like Disneyland. So you gotta look at what this person is pushing. You know what I'm saying? And looking back, like, well, right now it's like shit fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't see the future. Like, I don't know this nigga Trump gonna get here and do all this shit either. Like, but he already showing himself as like a, you know what I'm saying? He already got a lot of negative headlines on his name. You know what I'm saying?
Did you get paid to post that?
Hell nah. But speaking of get like, I could have got paid by Trump, everything. I turned that shit down. Like, I ain't standing with that shit either. Like,
okay.
All right, so there's that. And then here's a little bit of this last one.
Boom, they said you hated Kamala Harris. Is that true?
I was ready for that.
Oh no, that's the same one.
I wanted you to ask me that too. Like,
yeah, that's the same one.
That's enough. All right. So yeah, people aren't appreciating this. So here's somebody who commented. They got Swae Lee on the radio. Charlemagne asked, "Why did you tweet? Do not vote for Kamala." He said he was Googling and didn't agree with her policies. What policies? Couldn't name one. And that's how dumb N-words be. So he slandered Kamala for free to his followers, didn't even bother to vote, and now is unhappy with Trump. Sounds like a lot of people who are running their mouths in 2024. This is some ignorant stuff. Let's see. Where's the one where they called him a coward? I wanted to read that one. Looks like that's not in this particular. Yeah, so that's not here. But there was somebody who was saying, stand on business, don't be a coward. But basically, that's the gist of the situation. So here we speaking of tap dancing, here's Swae Lee trying to basically walk everything back. And he's getting called out by people who are like, you can't come over here now, you said what you said. And he's getting called out by people who are like, why are you even walking it back? You should just stand on what you believe. And then there's other people who are like, he don't know nothing. He's uneducated. And, so he's getting it. He's getting it from all directions right now. What did you make of this situation?
And that's what you get whenever you don't stand on whatever you're talking about. You get it from all angles. And man, this is horrible. Like, no media training for this kid. Like, did you not know they were going to ask you that at the Breakfast Club? I was waiting for you to ask me that. It's like, okay, if you were waiting for him to ask anything to deal with Kamala, you should have come ready. I Googled it. You know what I'm saying? They didn't pay me. Hell no, they didn't pay me. I could have made money off of that. It's like, come on, bro. You did make money off of that. You know what I'm saying? And the whole way that he handled it just didn't seem authentic. That tweet, whether he got paid or not, what he was saying, he did more for blacks. Well, he talks like that anyway, bro. That man probably said copy paste. Hey, just say this, Swae Lee, blacks. But for him to say that, I mean, that was a pretty convincing statement that he made there. Talking about he did more than the sleepy man and whatever. And yeah, bro, you got to be ready to back that up. And especially if you go to a channel like Breakfast Club, they're gonna press you about that.
Yeah.
And he didn't handle that well at all. And I don't know who's on his team, who's in his camp, but I would have said either no questions about that, or I would have came prepared for a real cross the board, whatever type of thing. But whenever you take a political stand like that, because people ain't playing about politics, much like they're not playing about religion and other things, right? So you got to be about that. And but people are allowed to change their minds politically and stuff like that. And if he did change his mind politically, you should, or if that's the angle you could have went, he could have went that way. But him changing his mind politically is, damn, look at what he's doing now. Like, it's crazy. Like, I didn't think he was going to do that. And that's not an answer.
You weren't saying nothing.
That's not an answer, bro. So, for me personally, I have my stance that I have with politics. I had my stance with Kamala, and I had my stance with Orange Man. And my stance on both of them were, I think they're both clowns. Because I don't buy into the left-right paradigm. I don't get involved with liberal and conservative stuff or the status quo version of these things. I think it's all rigmarole and a horse and pony show. And real strings get pulled no matter who's in office. And so, that's been my stance. But but you can go back in the archives. Whenever we talked about Kamala, I dunked on her. I'm not gonna sit here and go, man, I wish Kamala was in office over whoever. This would be going on regardless of who was in office. But to me personally, I think this scenario fits Trump's narrative better, which is why he got elected. So, but I can have that stance because I'm not bought and paid for. I'm not part of some record label or whoever, and that people are paying me to be an influencer so I can say whatever. And then a couple of years down the line, I'm going to have to get on Breakfast Club and back it up. A lot of your fans, Swae Lee, are Kamala supporters. All right. A lot of them. And when you said what you said, and they didn't forget. And so the Breakfast Club is going to remind you of that. For all of these Black artists that turn against the status quo, whether you're getting paid to do so or whatever, you better have the gonads to double down on it like LeBron did. Like, double down on it. Don't sit there and cower away, because that is a coward move. And he just looks silly. And he does look uninformed. And it does sound like he didn't do any research at all. And he just said what he said. It looks like he got paid. So all in all, Swae Lee is just a bad look, man. And if you take a stance like that, bro, just stand on it. But right now, it's not looking good. It's not like Swae Lee's moving the needle anyway, but he has his fans and he has his, the people that are support him. And he did himself no favors with all of this. But what are your thoughts, man, on Swae Lee getting called out on the Breakfast Club and him saying that, hey, man, he had no idea it was going to be like this, basically. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, those videos are hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why he's getting so much heat now is because he looks like an idiot. He looks like he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I agree with you. I think if he had articulated himself better in terms of being knowledgeable about the questions that they were asking him, he wouldn't have taken so much heat. You're still going to have plenty of detractors who are going to be mad that you said what you said in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come off as a knowledgeable person who is able to explain why you take the stance that you're taking now, people at the end of the day are going to be like, it is what it is. I don't like what he initially said, but he seems to have his wits about him. So I can't be too mad about that.
Right.
The fact that he appears to not know anything is his problem, because he couldn't name anything specific, and it basically just sounded like he was regurgitating social media comment section talking points.
Yes.
And furthermore, his initial remarks about Joe Biden and Trump doing more for blacks than any other president, those also came off as social media comment section talking points. Yes. That's LeBron. That's like LeBron makes his teammates better type stuff. That's like LeBron is he's a better player because he makes his teammates better. Okay, you're not substantiating any of that. You're just regurgitating what you heard somebody say on SportsCenter. What do you mean by he makes his teammates better? He averages more assists. He gets more assists per game. Like, why do you think that, other than you heard someone else say that? And there's this section of the internet of black people trying to go against the grain by being Trump supporters, where they say things like that. They're kind of regurgitating the same talking points. Trump has done more for black people by, blah, 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 80% this, and, permanently funding HBCUs. These are things that you'll hear a lot. And that's not to say that it's good or bad to be a Trump supporter as a black person, because you're entitled to think how you want. The point is, they should be your own independent thoughts and not thoughts that are influenced by reading other people's comment sections in an Instagram post or in a Twitter post. Like, that's weak, but that's what it sounds like with him. So he deserves everything that he's getting for no reason other than he don't know what he's talking about. And I think it's clear that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And you're right, when you step into this arena of wanting to espouse your political points of view, you have to, first of all, be prepared to get the criticism from people who think you have the wrong stance. You're gonna get criticism no matter what, because even if you do your research and you know what you're talking about from a policy standpoint, there's still going to be people who don't like it because you're on that side. So, you're doing yourself an even greater disservice by doing that while also not knowing what the hell you're talking about. Like, you're just digging an even bigger grave for yourself. And there's no way in the world that he has a publicist or somebody. Like, there should have been somebody there who, number one, was like, all right, bro, let's sit down. This interview is in 2 weeks, because all of this stuff is scheduled out well in advance. This interview is in 2 weeks. Let's sit down and crack open some books, and let's read some articles, and let's watch some nonpartisan videos so that we can get you up to speed on what this is when these questions inevitably come. Like, there's somebody who either has to do that, or somebody who tells the producers on the Breakfast Club, don't ask him any of those questions. Neither one of those things took place clearly, because he don't know what the hell he's talking about. So he kind of deserves everything that he's getting, man. And it's like that kind of stuff is only going to take you so far. Yeah, talking like that is going to endear you to that pocket of people online who are those forced contrarians who are on the side of Trump because they're so disenchanted with being Democratic voters, which, trust me, I get that sentiment. But you can only endear yourself to those people as much as, like, it's only going to take you so far to endear yourself to that crowd. Eventually, you're going to have to come back to the masses. Like, eventually, it's going to regress to the mean, and you're going to have to answer some of these questions. And if you're unprepared to do that, you deserve everything that comes along with it. And, here's the last thing that I'll say about this particular conversation, just to kind of bring it out to a broader sense about, like, race and these kinds of political conversations, right? Like, there are a lot of people in the world who are Black, for example, and who are Republican voters and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to know what you're talking about. So if you know that you favor smaller government, and you know that you favor lower taxation, and you know that you favor states over federal governments being in charge of instituting certain policies, if those are the kinds of things that you believe in, and you believe in traditional ideals, then there's nothing wrong with saying I identify with this particular party or I vote this particular way. That's perfectly reasonable. But what we have going on now is, because of this particular climate that's supercharged with a lot of this chaos going on, like, people who are reasonably on that side are being lumped into this category of being on the wrong side of history, because if you identify with that side, then it means by default you identify with a lot of the craziness.
Of course, yeah.
And so there's a segment of people who are pushing back against that, saying, hey, listen, I'm dug in on the sand on this. You're not going to smoke me out of my hole just because we're going through crazy times right now. I still identify with a lot of these specific tenets. And to those people who look at the world that way, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to continue to not be smoked out of your hole, that's also okay. But don't let your cause be co-opted by people like Swae Lee, who don't know what the hell they talking about, because he's making you look bad at this point.
Yes.
So all the way around, 1,000 lashes for Swae Lee. I'm still not the biggest fan of the Breakfast Club, but this kid did not do himself any favors.
None.
He really made himself look very bad. And there's nothing worse than, the only thing worse than a person who is perceived to be on the wrong side of history politically, not knowing how to handle that, is a person being perceived to be on the wrong side of history who doesn't know how to handle it and is also uninformed.
Yes.
Like, he took it even worse. Like, if there was a worse place to be in, he took it there. So I don't know how he's going to climb out of this one, but good luck to him.
100%. The only thing he got to do is just go away and disappear. That's his best bet, and then come back a few years later when people forget, I guess. But this may follow him, because there's people out there that are from that side of the camp, from the Kamala side, that are looking like they're on the right side of history, because she wouldn't have done this,
Yeah.
But this is where my theories come into play, is that this country has, and the people that invest in it, and the people that can pull strings, because we see a lot of strings getting pulled around here lately, and those people, those interests, had a agenda for this country. And Kamala couldn't, or Sleepy Joe, this level of execution of chaos that we're seeing right now, they couldn't have done that. This level of execution could only have been done by a guy that used to be on reality TV shows. And so when I look at I don't think that history is unfolding before us per se. I think that the people, and if you are in control of a country, you better plan ahead. You bet. If you want to control things and have things the way you want it to be, you don't let things unfold by the seat of its pants and put in anybody who can take the country in any direction you want. If you want your country to go in a direction, you map it out. See, this is how I think about it. So when it came to Kamala and her being black and all this other stuff that they were trying to galvanize black people, black versus white over there and all that, I would say, well, she's not that. She's done this to black. So I was dunking on her too. And so, but when it came to my political ideologies, I think it's all a farce. I didn't know what direction the country was going to go in, honestly. But now that we see who's in there now and what's happening, I mean, god damn, I didn't think this stuff was going to happen like this, but here we are. And so, but it seems as though the people who have their own particular interests wanted the country to go in a particular direction very aggressively. And we had to have a Fortune 500 business aggressive person who's really not likable to be in there doing it. So that's my way of thinking about it. But if somebody think that this is just real politics, policies versus policies, personality versus personality, or we put the wrong person in, so now they're taking the country in the dumps or whatever. What if she wasn't supposed to win anyway? And that's where I'm at with it. Swae Lee stepping out, telling people, see, I told people that I don't vote at all for all of this stuff. Swae Lee telling people who to vote for and who not to vote for. And then turn around and didn't vote. Well, I didn't vote. Like, so what were you saying? Why did you talk about 80% of blacks and we got to do our research? You look like a fool. That's what I'm saying. Like you said, bro, they had this mapped out ahead of time. It just takes a few minutes of prep to go, hey, man, this is how you get out of that. Not done at all. It looked like he got ambushed there, but it sounds like he also knew that this was coming. So this lack of preparation, you know, damn, bro, if you did a presentation in school, you would have known. But you know, when you Swae Lee and you swagged out, right, you probably didn't have to do presentations in school. Yeah. So at any event, man, more power to the young man, you know. But this was a bad look, bro. And so, you know, there's a lot of people that feel good because they voted for Kamala or whatever. But you know, me personally, I still think that we're living in a Twilight Zone, Black Mirror type of situation, and you know, it's not that simple. But they think how they think for a reason. So I'm not going to sit here and convince them. But that's why I've had my stances. If you go back in the channel and you listen to what we say and what we're talking about, it's consistent with we're living in a production. So if Swae Lee had taken a step back and said, "Hey man, Blasey, please," or not even said anything at all, why are you endorsing people? So he just went wrong from the beginning. Yeah, but he should have handled it like Nelly did, or you know, whatever. Even though he looked crazy, but people ain't talking about that no more. So, and I guess they're only going to talk about this for a little while longer until he goes away again, because now nobody's really going to check for your album, bro. The red people or the blue people, you isolating everybody, bro. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, he's that's what he one thing about these people, man, you can't show up without the receipts. You know, you have to be prepared to rub people the wrong way no matter what, because not everybody thinks the same about this stuff and there's always disagreement.
Right.
But for you to show up to the party without your receipts, I don't know. Good luck to him, man. But this was hard to watch. That's all I know. It was rough. It was a rough watch.
That was tough, Swae Lee, bro. Golly. No shout outs there, bro.
No, yeah. Moving right along, we have Jaden Ivy, who is speaking of ostracizing people, he's doing his own brand of that, which includes his spouse, who is trying to distance herself from what people are calling a lot of his unhinged online behavior. So Jaden Ivy, for anyone who doesn't know, man, over the course of the last week to 2 weeks, he was let go by the Chicago Bulls. under the pretense of him rehabbing a knee injury. But, he's been kind of going online and spouting his religious beliefs, calling people out, basically talking about how people are going to hell and, talking about people's sins and just doing all kinds of stuff. And, people are saying that he's mentally disturbed, that he needs help. And he's even talked about his wife. Apparently he's talked about how he attempted suicide before and all kinds of crazy stuff, man. So not exactly sure what's going on with this guy, but he is currently right now I don't know if he's still officially a part of the Bulls and they just like kind of sent him home, or whether he's like actually not a part of the team anymore. But even his wife is distancing herself from his social media antics, which have not ceased. They continue. So this says Jaden Ivy's wife wanted no part of his shout out on latest IG live. It just keeps getting worse and worse for Jaden Ivy. It's been a week since the Chicago Bulls. Okay, so he was waived, so he's not on the team anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Since the Chicago Bulls waived him because of his bizarre behavior on social media, he made anti-LGBTQ plus remarks, allegedly asked reporters if they fornicated before marriage, and openly criticized prominent players on social media. Along the way, his wife Caitlin and the mother of their 3 children has been caught in the middle. During one of his rants, Ivy openly admitted that he was abusing her. Recently, she came out and denied his claim that she had ghosted him. She wants nothing to do with his behavior, as is evident by his latest post on Instagram Live with Caitlin in the background. Ivy was talking to his followers when he mentioned Caitlin, who immediately told him to stop. All this comes at a time when there have been calls for Ivy to get serious help. Furthermore, he even admitted that he had attempted suicide multiple times. Recently, Ivy was seen preaching on the streets. Altogether, Ivy played 4 games with the Bulls after being traded from the Pistons in February. In total, he averaged 11.5 points per game. Ultimately, his season ended due to a lingering knee injury, which dates back to his time with the Pistons. Certainly, the continued rounds of social media rants have put his basketball career in jeopardy. Jaden and Caitlin got married in 2022. So here is said video of him shouting her out in the video, but of course, she was kind of not really having it.
Praise God. I got my wife here.
Oh, please shut up.
She loves me. She loves God. She's obeying God.
All right. So once again, hard to watch. Even
Sorry
though it
for
was
cringe, everybody.
So yeah, what do you make of this Jaden Ivy situation and his old lady clearly looking like she was not trying to be associated with what he has going on?
I mean, bro has really gone off the deep end. I don't know what's going on here per se, but one of his lives that he did mention about him being abused as a child sexually. So that might have a lot to do with all of this stuff, because some people, if untreated or whatever, they could go off. They could go off on a deep end emotionally. But this behavior, I mean, I don't know. This behavior seems, I ain't trying to put nothing on him, man, but it just really seems, it seems strange in the sense that, I ain't trying to say the man's taking any substances or anything, but it's like, what's happening now? Like, why now? So he went through one of his lives. He was talking about the abuse. The article mentioned about him, dealing with, issues of self-deletion. And he also mentioned that he abused alcohol as a young man. And he wanted to be in the streets. He also was a corn addict. So he's got a lot going on. And I think basketball was his only saving grace. The only thing to keep him sturdy. And I think everything else was just a chaos that was going on in his life. And basketball was the only thing that really kept him afloat. Well, things didn't go too well in Detroit. A lot of injuries. Don't know what's going on in the locker room. Don't know if he had some of these personality quirks going on with Detroit, but they traded him. So then he goes to Chicago. Doesn't spend very long there. Gets injured. And, dealing with minutes issues, dealing with this and dealing with that. Can't get on the court. So I think him not being able to play basketball to mask his apparent issues that he has. I think when basketball was no longer available for him to play because he got injured, and his career is not working out how he planned, I think that those things that were hidden before just surfaced. And whenever he went live and said what he said, that was all the Bulls needed to go look. Because I don't know what was going on behind closed doors. And apparently this personality that he's had and he's been exhibiting on live, he's probably been doing it in the locker room. So there's this thing where this guy may be unhinged. And so he's an unhinged guy that always gets injured. And now he's saying stuff like this. And it wasn't just the the LGBT stuff. It was what he was saying about Steph Curry and other people and all this other stuff, man. And it's like, look, bro, this is a combustible individual. We don't need Kanye West in our locker room. Because what is he going to say next? So they waived him. So you're not Steph Curry. You're not Jason Tatum. You're not a big name. He brought up in one of his lives that what's that boy name? Anthony Edwards had used a slur towards the LGBT community before, but he just got fined. They didn't waive him. It's like, bro, you're not Anthony Edwards, bro. And because you're not Anthony Edwards and you're doing all of this stuff, they're not going to hide it. They're just going to cut you because you're not worth it. It's tough to say, man, but you're not worth it in the business world of NBA. I'm not saying you're not worth it as a person. And so with all of that stuff going on, man, this guy's just spiraling in 4K and he's documenting it all. And this latest thing with his wife where, when it's like, she loves me and stuff, it's like, she clearly doesn't. She just pushed by you and escaped. So what makes you as a person want to say that, film that, show that? So I don't think if that's just regular unhingedness, fine. But to me, I think there might be something else going on. I don't think this is Ben Simmons, woe is me, mental health stuff. It might be, but I think that he might be doing something possibly to put him in these positions. I don't know. But I've never seen a case like this before where somebody is just doing stuff like he does. But I wish him the best, man. He comes off, at least in his rants and stuff that he's talking about, as somebody that wants to be authentic and genuine. But I think he's just a troubled young man, to be honest. What are your thoughts, bro, on Jaden Ivy and this whole situation and this latest video where him saying that, hey, my wife loves me, she blah blah blah, and she just pushed right by him and ran out of the room? What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I saw some people online saying that they let him go because of his beliefs, that there isn't anything that he's doing that is objectionable. They're just letting him go because he is espousing beliefs that don't work with the conventional wisdom or the status quo. So basically they're making him, they're basically equating I'm not saying a lot of people are doing this, but I'm saying that I've seen this where he's essentially being equated to like a lesser version of Colin Kaepernick. Like, oh, they're blackballing him because of what he's fighting, because he's fighting on the side of righteousness type stuff. And I don't agree with that. I just think that he is being unhinged. And I say that because Kaepernick wasn't behaving this way when he was doing what he was doing. So you can kind of make that equivalency if you want to, but in my opinion, that would be a false equivalency. And you're right. I mean, just to kind of, reference Kaepernick again, because there's this idea that, the league colluded to blackball Colin Kaepernick. Was the result that Kaepernick is out of the NFL? Yes, that was the result. But I don't think that the league actively conspired against him. I don't think that people got on a Zoom call and everybody was like, okay, nobody signed Kaepernick. I don't think that's what happened. I think what happened was there was a collective understanding amongst people who own companies that a person who's radioactive is bad for business. And so there wasn't necessarily a need for a roundtable meeting or a Zoom call or any sort of actual collusion. It was just an understanding that this guy's radioactive and his radioactivity is not worth the cost of doing business, because it's not like he's good enough to win us a Super Bowl. Correct. So, there's this idea that Kaepernick was actively blackballed in the sense that the owners all got on a phone call and was like, we not signing this guy. No, that's not what happened. What happened was he got rich people. And what rich people do is they weigh the pros and consequences. They weigh the pros and cons. He ain't worth it because he's not that good, on top of the fact that he's radioactive. So a person who's trying to sustain a healthy business is just not going to deal with it, period. The result was he's out of the NFL. You can call it blackballed if you want, but what happened was not the level of secret conspiratorial stuff that people are making it out to be. And the reason why I bring that up is because when it comes to Jaden Ivy, it's the same deal. He's not good enough to be worth his radioactivity. So he's just not going to be on the team because he's acting in a manner that isn't justified given the goals of any organization, which is to win games and be profitable. So he's just not going to be a part of the team, period. And furthermore, and I'm not trying to put this on him because I don't know his history or his situation. I'm not personally involved with him, or I'm not around him, so I don't know. I'm looking at this from a distance. But as someone who has firsthand experience being around a person close to me who is in the midst of a manic episode, it looks like he's in the midst of a manic episode. Now, is he? I don't know. But it looks like that because I have experienced that. I've experienced being around that personally. And it looked a lot like what he's doing here. So I'm not trying to put it on him. I'm just trying to say that in this particular situation, it very well may be a matter of legitimate mental health situations going on. And there was one other thing that I was going to say. What was it? I don't remember what it was. It was one other thing that I was going to say with him. I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that, man. Not worth the price to pay given his radioactivity. I remember what it was. Sometimes people are just like that person that you just don't want to be around, right? Like, right or wrong, fair or unfair, you have people who are cool and who will from time to time be like, hey man, don't give up on believing in God. Maybe you should check out going to church from time to time. But they're not overbearing with it, and otherwise they're cool and they might just give you these little nuggets from time to time. There's a difference between that and the guy who's standing outside the comedy show telling you that you're going to hell.
Right, I wasn't expecting that, but you're right, bro.
There's a difference between those two profiles. There's the profile of a person who's like, hey man, keep up the faith, trust in God, go to church, don't give up on your faith, so on and so forth, right? And then there's the person who's outside of the concert telling you that you're going to hell for being at this concert. There's the guy who's picketing you Like no one wants to deal with that, right? Like there's the person who says, hey, don't give up on your faith, go to church. And then there's the people who are picketing outside of my gym on a Sunday afternoon when I'm just trying to walk into the gym to work out.
Antagonizing me.
Yeah. It's like, listen, you're literally in front, like you're in the parking lot of the gym because you know it's a high traffic area and you're going to be able to and you're going to be able to encounter enough people to be able to do this. That's annoying.
Yeah.
That's annoying. Like, why do you have to be in front of my gym when I'm just trying to walk through the door to get my workout in? I'm not sinning. I'm going to work out right now.
Right.
So there's that person. And then there's the person who's reasonably like, hey, man, maybe you should look into this from time to time. Jaden Ivy appears to be the guy who's outside the concert yelling at you that you're going to hell.
Getting at me.
Yeah, he appears to be the person who's picketing in front of my gym on a Sunday afternoon. And that kind of guy just needs to kind of go away sometimes. Like, we don't need that here, bro. Like, enough with the consternation. People just don't like that kind of stuff. So it is what it is, man. But yeah, I hope that he gets the situation figured out because it's a hell of a waste of talent and it is unfortunate. And yeah, man, this is a crazy situation.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this could go into, the manic folder. This guy's just having an episode, but he, like he said, he was abusive towards his wife, soon to be ex-wife, I assume. And so this guy's got it going on, man. He's got a lot happening right now. And so that's why I said, like, I don't think this just started when he did that live. I think he had a lot going on when he got acquired by the Bulls. I think Detroit knew he had a lot going on. And so when they shipped him over there and the Bulls found out what he had going on, and then he getting hurt on top of that, they're like, look, bro, no, we don't need this as an organization. And they did what they did. And I agree with you too, man. Like, people are phrasing this and framing this as, you know what I'm saying? He exposed the secret society's agendas. And I'm like, I don't know, man. This guy looks a little unhinged. Now, granted, is there some truth to what he's saying? Yeah. But I don't think that it's because of that, personally. And I'm quick to grab my tinfoil hat. I'll fit it right on top of this thing. All right. I think that he, because I'm sitting here as this is unfolding, because this dropped last week, officially, so this dropped last weekend. I was like, let's get some dust to settle on this first. And as dust started to settle, I started to see his behaviors. It was like, there's people that, I used to catch the bus a lot and I used to drive cabs. So there's people that I encountered that knew some stuff. I mean, they would be dropping facts, but they will also random off, some wild stuff or have weird tendencies or whatever, or I drop them off at a shady ass location or, whatever. And it's just like, this guy may know some stuff, but his lifestyle's unhinged. So there's things that I can take from this person with a grain of salt, but it's just not like this guy's no absolute truth bearer. Like, he's got a lot going on and he just so happened to know some stuff. So for Jaden, he looks like he reminds me of those, frantic people that I would encounter that had a lot going on, but they'll drop a jewel here or there because they say enough. So I wish the young man the best, bro, because whenever I heard him describing his life story, he does have a lot going on. And he needed a hug a long time ago. And I don't think he ever got that. And I think basketball was his only hug. And then once that started to slip away from him, we're witnessing it now on the internet. Yeah. So I hope he gets it together, man. But yeah, I think that I hope he gets it. I just hope he gets it together. It's an unfortunate situation, but I don't think it's what you were saying. Like, I don't think this is some you know, Colin Kaepernick, him taking a stand for the Lord type of deal. Even though he said what he said, I don't think that they're crashing down on him because he said that. I think he had a lot of other stuff going on. He said that, which doesn't help him, and then that's why he's gone. At the end of the day, you have a job, bro, and that's what these NBA players. You're not owed this, and you can be as talented as Kaepernick and as talented as Jaden Ivy, but you ain't talented enough to keep around with that kind of baggage with you. So I wish him the best, man, but yeah, it's just a sad situation for the young man.
Yeah, it is, man. He was drafted number 5 overall.
Number 5, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy that he was drafted that high. That means he was really good like that. Because I don't remember him too much in college. I don't remember. But for him to be drafted, yeah, for him to have been drafted that high, that's too bad, man. So yeah, hopefully he can redeem himself and get back into the league if he does want to continue to play, because who knows, maybe he gets a little more settled but realizes that he has a different path in life, and that's okay too. Nothing wrong with that either. But whatever it is that he wants to do, hopefully he's able to do it like fruitfully well, and not be sort of like viewed as this malcontent that no one wants to be around, because that would just be unfortunate.
Hey man, wishing the young man the best, man.
Yeah. And last but not least, we discussed this crazy controversy surrounding Pooh, Sheisty, and Gucci Mane. So apparently there's some dispute over the terms of a contract, and Pooh, Sheisty, and I guess his people attempted to resolve the situation. Pooh, Sheisty, and his crew attempted to resolve the situation by coordinating a kidnapping of Gucci Mane in order to get this whole situation squared away. And now there's all sorts of things coming out as a result of this. People are alleging that Gucci Mane is cooperating with authorities to identify Pooh, Sheisty as a person who kidnapped him, and Gucci Mane is going on the defensive, saying that he ain't a snitch and he ain't talked to nobody and all of this. It's just a crazy, messy situation, man. But this says fans turn on Gucci Mane amid Pooh Sheisty snitching allegations. Last week, Pooh Sheisty was arrested at his family home in Dallas, Texas. It was later reported that he's facing robbery and kidnapping charges. He and several associates are accused of carrying out a coordinated armed takeover disguised as a meeting about his contract with Gucci Mane's 1017 label. Allegedly, he held a gun to one victim's head and made them sign a release. Pooh Sheisty's lawyer, John Helms, addressed his client's case in an interview following the arrest. The government tries to characterize this as a dispute over money between Lontrell and his record label. But in this business, things are very often not what they seem, and people's motivations are very often not what they seem. All of this has earned big reactions from fans. Many have even turned on Gucci Mane amid allegations that he snitched on Pooh Sheisty. In one clip shared by No Jumper, an Atlanta inmate is seen throwing his copy of the Grammy nominees' book, Episodes, The Diary of a Recovering Madman, over a ledge. Clearly, he's no longer interested in supporting the hitmaker after these latest developments. The clip surfaces shortly after DJ Academic shared his take on the allegations, admitting that if he were in Gucci Mane's shoes, he'd identify the individuals allegedly responsible for the kidnapping. They all identified so I'm going to be honest here. It appears that all these guys cooperated and identified these people as being present during the offense. Gucci and the cameraman identified his Instagram account as CEO Big 30. So with all due respect, no diss to Gucci. I love you, Gucci, but know if you're taking the stand, but Gucci's doing the identification. He's doing what I would do. I ain't gonna lie. I'll drop a dime on an N-word, bruh. Yo, the N-word live right here. This is his girl right here. So that's basically DJ Academic saying that he would do what Gucci Mane is alleged to have done, which is to, identify the people who allegedly kidnapped him. Yeah, floor is yours, man. But what an ugly hip hop situation.
You know, and this should be chronicalized in the F the Streets movement. I guess book that's being formed right now, because here we have two of the more streeter dudes as far as the hip hop industry is concerned. We have Sir Guwop here and Pooh Sheisty, the up and coming street goblin. And so they had their spat, and Pooh Shiesty did some street stuff. He did some more streeter stuff to Gucci, allegedly, kidnapping and doing whatever and forcing himself out of this contract or whatever. That's some real street stuff. And what ended up happening is that Pooh Shiesty got identified allegedly by another street dude. So at what point, you know, because, you know, if Gucci wants to come out and, you know, defend himself and say that he ain't no snitch, or say, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how that the street rules, they're so, because they're not written down, people can interpret them however they want. And so is it really snitching if you didn't do the crime with the person? Like, they did it to you. But are you snitching because somebody did you wrong? Held you at gunpoint? Am I a snitch now?
I think so. Yeah, I think you still qualify as a snitch, even if somebody did it to you. Yeah.
But because y'all both in the underworld?
I think the idea is it's supposed to be handled in the streets without the authorities.
Yeah, no. So you mitigate the issue. You don't get the authorities involved. That's what real street activity is.
I guess so, man. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. So, and that's why, like, with the whole streets movement and, you know, F the streets thing, man, there's no honor amongst thieves. All right. So if there's people out there that are proclaiming this underworld life, expect the unexpected with those dudes. But me personally, I just think that I would like to see how this is getting handled. I hear a lot of people talking smack about Gucci. People don't like Gucci no more, and they really feel as though this new Gucci is a sellout, weird thing, and and so I think that this situation is panning out how the people that don't like Gucci anymore expected it to play out. Because when this story first dropped of him getting robbed, it wasn't like a goodie for him type of thing. But Gucci has really become a villain. So now the allegations of him snitching, that's even going to double down even more. But unfortunately, I would have to agree with, DJ Academics in the context of, well, what else do you expect him to do? If he doesn't like the way I handle business, get a lawyer. But this running up on me, intimidating, gunpoint type of stuff, like, people gonna get called. Like, I'm gonna call people on you. So, but then here comes the street persona thing of, you a snitch or not, type of thing. So I think that this is just going to go down as an event of how we're going to chronicleize snitching, F the streets. Is it F the streets, or is it we street people? Because these are the more streeter people that you're going to see in the rap game, apparently. But now the police are involved. So I would just like to see how the streets handle this, and how, the rappers handle it. But me personally, I think all of it needs to go. I think the street mentality, these street codes that nobody abides by, I think all that stuff needs to go out of the window. And that's pretty much my take on that, man. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Guwop getting robbed allegedly by Pooh Sheisty and having the authorities called on him. What are your thoughts, bro?
Bro, this is some crazy Pain and Gain. Like, you ever seen that movie Pain and Gain?
I didn't see
like
it.
It's based on a true story. Like, these bodybuilders, they kidnapped the guy who runs this gym, trying to extort him for money, but they end up they end up killing the guy. Not on purpose. Yeah, they ended up killing the guy, and then the ringleader got away with it, but then they eventually apprehended him overseas. But it's just these crazy stories, man, where it's like that really happened in real life. That's based on a true story. The gym was literally over there in Miami Lakes too. Crazy.
Of course, it was Miami Lakes, bro.
Yeah. I don't understand. When we talked about the F the Streets thing with 21 Savage, I expressed my confusion over it. I'm not sure what it means or what the goal of it is, because 21 Savage is saying F the streets, but then he's got songs on his album where he's talking about how he doesn't want to hang out with you if you don't want to shoot your gun. So literally, I'm not making that up. There's a song on his album with Glorilla where he's saying he don't want to hang if you don't want to bang. So like, I'm confused as to which is it? F the streets, like no more street stuff. Like, I'm just confused. So I remember, at Charleston White, I'm not calling him a prophet, or I'm not trying to call him a wise man by any stretch of the imagination. But I remember years ago when Eric Holder was on trial for the murder of Nipsey Hussle, and Charleston White was doing an interview. I believe he was on DJ Vladimir's channel. And Vladimir asked him why he is walking around saying free Eric Holder, free Eric Holder. Like, why are you saying free Eric Holder when this guy is alleged to have, killed this, popular, renowned rapper? And Charleston White was basically like, well, I'm just being consistent with the code of the streets. This is what y'all be telling me, that the way things are supposed to be handled in the streets is you don't alert the authorities, you don't tell on nobody, you accept what's coming to you, and it is what it is. And as long as you follow along with that code, everybody is on the outside saying free this person, free that person. So why aren't we saying free Eric Holder when he's on trial and he ain't snitch on nobody? He's taking a rap for everything that happened with Nipsey. He's being consistent with the code of the streets, which is not telling on nobody. So even though he took out a rapper that you like so much, why aren't we saying free Eric Holder? Isn't that consistent with street code? And even, again, I'm not sitting up here saying Charleston White is this, astute philosopher. But at the same time, he kind of also had a point. Like, where's the consistency? Are we or are we not trying to abide by this street code? What's the deal? Because if that is the case, then Gucci shouldn't be saying anything, even if he was the victim. Like, because I agree with you, you're not gonna kidnap me and get away with that. Like, it's not like I was a witness to something else that happened to somebody else. No, this happened directly to me. So it's, from my vantage point, you can call it snitch, you can call it whatever you want. Justice needs to be served for the fact that you kidnapped and strong-armed me.
Correct.
Like, that's a felony offense. What are we doing here? But if we are consistent with this weirdo street code stuff, then, much like Charleston White was saying with Eric Holder, then Gucci Mane should keep his mouth shut. And according to him, because I heard the audio clip, I was on my way to the gym on Saturday. I was listening to DJ Who Kid on Shade 45. They played the audio of Gucci Mane basically going on social media saying, I'm ready to deal with this in the streets. I ain't never went to the police.
Of course.
So that did happen. So I don't know how this stuff is playing out, man, but I hear what you're saying. Somebody better say something before this ends up becoming more dangerous than it appears. Now, apparently, Pooh Shiesty was already arrested, so we'll see how the situation turns out. But street code, no street code, snitching, no snitching, F the streets or not F the streets, which is it? Because I'm still confused as to which way this thing is going.
Yeah, if Gucci has to put up, because that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, if your whole personality is about how gangster you are, and you got punked like how Gucci did, you know, at what extent are you willing to protect that reputation? You know what I'm saying? So, is he really gonna? Is he really gonna sit out here and try to get it back in the streets, or act like he's trying to get it back in the streets? Like, how far are you willing to take this persona at this point? Because everybody knew Gucci before he got locked up for real. And then there's this new Gucci who's just doing new things. So whatever this this new Gucci calls the police, and that's okay, bro. Didn't you reform? Didn't you change? But then when you get in the booth, bro, you talking all that reckless stuff again. You know what I'm saying? So new Gucci is trash, bro. Did we cover that? Did we cover that at some point last year or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what this new guy is on, bro. But you know, he gets robbed by Pooh, Sheisty. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is with this guy. But yeah, I would just like to see how this situation unfolds for the Street Chronicles. Are we gonna keep upholding these fake morals, these fake traditions, these fake standards? Because even the pantheon of street dudes will call the cops. So if they're doing that, should the rest of us still follow these fake street rules? Because they're not even listening to them. And that's what I'm saying. So I would like to see how this get chronicalized. So the people that sit here and idolize Gucci, idolize these other guys or whatever, because there's so many stories about these guys that eventually come home and there's paperwork and there's all this other stuff. So at what point are we going to sit here and realize that all of them talk, that none of them adhere to these codes? So that was a good analogy that you brought up with Charleston White, because I forgot about that, but that's spot on, man. Because people don't like it because they killed somebody that they know and somebody that they like. So it's like akin to a family member. You're not gonna uphold street code for that, will you? Yeah, I ain't no snitch. Hey man, they did something to XYZ. You know what I'm saying? I think you would talk. There's nothing wrong with talking if somebody did something ignorant and dumb. So yeah, we need to drop that whole entire philosophy, man. So I would love to see how the streets interpret one of their gods as a snitch. I think that'd be very interesting.
Well, as we saw from the article, there's somebody in prison who threw,
he crashed out.
Who threw Gucci Mane's book over the ledge because he ain't having it. Because clearly he believes Gucci Mane said something and identified somebody. So
hey man, it is what it is, bro.
It is what it is. I don't get this stuff personally, but you know, I don't come from that walk of life, and I don't try to, you know, make it seem as though I do understand it. But I do believe ignorant behavior is what it is, regardless of the reasons why. And again, man, something gets done directly to me. Look, bro, like, you know, where is the line of demarcation? Because like I didn't witness something that otherwise didn't involve me. This is something that happened directly to me. So, you know, it is what it is, man. But according to Gucci Mane, he upheld the code. He ain't tell on nobody, even though the reports are he did. So well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it unfolds. But all right, y'all, we are done. Another stream in the books. Shouts out to Marcus Dudley, of course. Check out the rest of the content on the channel. We do this all the time. We like to kick this out content as much as possible. Go ahead and do your boys a big old solid and hit the subscribe button if you have not already done so. We just want people to get notifications whenever new content is published to the channel, just to get the word out there. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the commentary in any of our videos, even if you think that we are crazy and out of our minds and are saying stuff that's completely off left field and just completely wrong. Download the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at ConApproach, ConApproach. I am also on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. And as I always like to say, as I look at the Heat getting their ass whooped by 20 points by the Toronto Raptors, don't be a group thinker. Have a mind of your own. Think for yourself. And if something happens to you, go ahead and let the people know, man. Identify somebody because it did happen to you.
Exactly. Hey, yo, and the name is Dogon_SS, by the way. Skr. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, YouTube, DraftKings, MySpace, Twitter, X, TikTok. Hey, man, if there's a social media platform, Dogon_SS is also out there. All right. And then we greatly appreciate you guys for watching, liking, sharing. All right. And consciously leaving those comments, because without y'all, man, there are no us dropping jewels on the weekly. So we greatly appreciate you guys for watching as always. And as I always say, guys, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it player, and don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until the next episode, ladies and gentlemen, still got more rings than Robert Ory, and we'll see y'all next week.
That's right, y'all. Keep it locked. We'll holler at y'all next time.
Hello.
You know how we like to do. Another stream in the books, closing out. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you later. Peace.
Peace. Hell yeah.